Hello there, I'm Mike Creevy for Homeschool Connections, and I'm delighted today to be able to talk to Mr. Dan Goddu about his Homeschool Connections courses. Dan, welcome.
Hi, Mike. Peace be with you.
Yeah, and with your spirit. So
Thank you.
it's the old Star Wars joke. I have all the Star Wars stuff over here. You know, the you can tell Star Wars fans who have not been to mass in a while if they say "Peace be with you" and they say "and
Oh, I
also with
see.
you."
Yes,
So
yes, yes. That's
so
right.
why don't you tell us a little bit about your own background and just sort of how you ended up teaching for Homeschool Connections?
Yeah, sure. So, I've had a successful software career. I recently retired. You know, I retired full time maybe about 5 years ago. So still working. I haven't worked my last job yet. Um, and I did. I in my career I did software quality tests. I was software quality assurance manager. I did auditing. I was a manufacturing test manager for a automotive supplier that did those blind spot radars on cars. You know those
Oh,
little
okay.
icons that light up on the mirrors as cars go
Yeah,
whizzing by you on either side.
yeah.
So that was my last job I worked at. I had a lot of fun at that. That was like of all my career, that was the best job I had in terms of just not
Okay.
my own personal focus, my own personal approach to it, and also my desire to really bring God into the job.
Hmm.
Personally, my own sort of my own certainly journey in respect to respect to praying for success, right? For me and my
Mm-hmm.
I'm married to my lovely wife Joan for 35 years. I have 3 children. I have 2 grandchildren. If you ask me
Well,
where I'm from, well, that's a complicated story because you see, I raised my kids in New Hampshire. Uh, my wife and I moved to Michigan to take a job out there for a couple of years, and then we bought a trailer, a tow trailer, tow trailer, and we traveled the country for a year. We were full-time RVers. Saw
wow.
some of beautiful country, God's amazing creation. Got to ponder that while I was standing there in Bryce Canyon,
Yeah.
looking at what's called the amphitheater. It was just absolutely remarkable.
I've been
My
blessed
wife
to be there myself. That's
have
pretty
you really?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And be able to kind of walk up around the edge in the back and be able to look at it there. It was just tremendous, tremendous. Uh, so um, perhaps Domenico Ruggiero. He introduced me to Homeschool Connections,
Mm-hmm.
and I've done some online training for a different company, teaching engineering classes, teaching programming classes, and facilitating theology classes as well. So
Okay.
it was, the incomparable Dr. Peggy Morrow has moved on to other things. So Domenico got me to talk with Walter and Maureen, and here I am. So I'm delighted
Wonderful.
and humbled to be part of Homeschool Connections.
Well, and so you certainly bring with you, a rich experience on the technical side of the house here too, to kind of know
Yeah, yeah,
the mechanics of it, which is
yeah.
very important and can.
Right.
So, what as far as your courses for Homeschool Connections or course, we kind of cover broadly all of them, in these videos. What are you offering here for Homeschool Connections, and what are some of your goals that you want to see in the classroom?
Sure. Thanks. So I'm going to be teaching Introduction to Computer Science, both Part 1 and Part 2. So that is a course that introduces students to computer science in general, engineering in general. Sort of like I would call it like an internship, right? Let's see,
Mm,
am I going to like this field, right? So in that class, we'll get to do a bunch of different things. We're going to learn about computer science and engineering in general. Uh, the important part of computer science is the logical thinking, which is a key skill, for any student, no matter what field they're in. So we'll get to learn about that. We'll also get to learn about the different engineering fields, and because there's about a dozen of major engineering fields, computer science of which is one. So I'll introduce those fields to other students and tell it how all it sort of comes together.
mm,
And then lastly, we spend a lot of time mastering our skills, right? If you're an athlete, we master whatever sport we're in, right? We practice
right.
and practice and practice, right? If we're a motivational speaker, we do a lot of we do a lot of looking in the mirror, right, and practicing our speeches, right.
Mm-hmm.
So here, the important skill I think students will need to have is mastering technology, because maybe they are now. I bet there's some students right now that have mastered that technology, right? But I've worked with some adults who didn't do that, and
Mm-hmm.
they really struggle now as they kind of move on into later career. And I think, boy, if this person could just master the technology, they would be so much more efficient, so
Sure.
much more dynamic, right? And not get tripped up by these things that happen to us when we're using our phones, using computers, using ATMs, right? So
Mm-hmm.
so that's sort of what I want to try to bring to the class too, is how in all this computer science stuff can we master technology and become more efficient, and and become successful, more successful.
Sure. Well, and I imagine and maybe you could speak to this just for a minute, but I have a friend who does a lot of similar work to what you're doing, and his critique sometimes has been that when he deals with he's at the college level, but he deals with a lot of these
Yeah.
college students coming in from like high school, and he says, look, just because you can navigate around an iPhone doesn't mean you actually know how it works or
Right.
how
Yeah.
you
Yes,
actually
that's
because
right.
so I think is that a fair thing to say that there's a maybe an assumption a lot of us have that the kids know how all this stuff works when maybe they really
Yes, yes,
don't.
yes. So we'll explore that stuff, right?
Yeah,
There's a lot of components, as they call them, behind that phone, right? It's just not the
yeah,
screen and what you can see on it, right? It's part of that mastering technology. There are applications. Those applications are written by people. In a way, they're rushed to write them. They're rushed to test them, right?
right.
So you're going to encounter, you if not already, you're going to encounter a lot of things that you need to figure out, and not just throw your phone on the floor about, right? Which they say they dropped it, but I don't think so. But anyway,
Right.
anyway, yeah. So behind there is the whole engineering process, right? That basically says what's the customer needs, right? How is a company going to meet them, and then the whole prototyping and engineering design cycle, which repeats itself over and over again until someone declares pencils down, right? Or they think, hey, we got a good product, we're going to move on forward there. So understanding that whole process behind it is also part of the logical thinking
Hmm.
around making sure that you are a critical thinker about is this thing ready to ship to a customer, and
Right.
if it's not, then why not, and what can we do to fix it, and let's get that done. So
Yeah.
the iPhone, and I have an Android, by the way. So the iPhone and all the sort of Web 2.0 stuff, as they like to say,
Hmm.
which are all the applications that everyone uses on a daily basis, at your computer, in your hand, at a terminal, right? You can't even go to McDonald's now and talk to a cashier, really. Well, you can, but
Right.
you walk in and there's a kiosk there, right?
Right.
Yesterday, I bought a chainsaw, and in a hardware store, and there was a kiosk there. When I bought this chainsaw, the clerk went over to it, entered the model number and the serial number, and said, "Okay, you need to fill out the rest of information." So now I've got to navigate, my name, my address, phone numbers, other kinds of contact information. And so, what's
Yeah.
behind that screen, right? How does it all working? How is it talking to the systems it needs to talk to get the information it wants for its marketing reasons, and also to get information that I'm going to find critical and important
Right.
when they contact me. So
Well, there's so much to potentially explore here, and we're just trying to give people a little sort of a little appetizer here of this. So
sure.
Dan, how can people learn more about your course at Homeschool Connections and how to get in touch with you, perhaps?
Yes. So my email is dgoddu.hsc, Homeschool Connections abbreviated, at gmail.com. So feel free to email me any questions you may have about the course itself. I'm in the middle of just sort of finalizing things. I met with Dr. Morrow yesterday just to get an understanding of how she structured the course, what she found important to talk about, how important how to relay the information. I'm going to be following her structure mostly. I'm not going to change much because she had a lot of success doing that,
Hmm.
and I don't want to mess with that success, right? I just want to sort of get things going, and then I'll add my own touches to things, of course.
Sure.
But go ahead and free. It's a two part course, by the way. So part one is this fall, and you're expected to take the second part in the spring. Um, I know that that there, students will be bringing different kinds of skills and understanding to the course. They may be intimidated by, by programming. Please don't be intimidated by that. It's really, just think of it as a natural language. It's a language, right?
Mm,
And it's a language that a computer understands. Its language is that we have spoken ourselves to each other. And now we're going to translate that down on a piece of paper to a computer and tell a machine,
right.
this is what I want you to do. So try not to be intimidated by that, but there will be options in the course that if you're not feeling geared towards scripting, as they call it, in a programming language called Python, then there's this tool called Snap, which is a block programming tool, and perhaps maybe you can get started with that and then move on, or you can use it all semester. But that's kind of what's going on. And we
Sure.
start, I think it's September 9th. I'm not sure, Mike. I have to take a look at
Okay.
that date. But I'm in the middle of just editing all that stuff up now. I'll have that wrapped up in a week. And then I look forward to the registrations.
Wonderful. Well, Dan Goddu, thank you so much for stopping by today and sharing about your Homeschool Connections courses with us.
Very good. Thanks, Mike. Take care. God
Yeah.
bless.
Thank you.